to Dear Piggy's Python course. I'm so excited to have you guys back this week. Today in this tutorial, we are going to be learning about data types. So let's go to our new browser, new tab, and then go to repl.it, Replit, which is an in-browser IDE that we use to code. Click the blue Start Coding button in the top right-hand corner or in the center. Pick your language Python and create your REPL. Now, the thing about data types is that they become more and more essential, especially as your coding gets more and more complex. And this is where a lot of errors could go wrong in their code. And it's where a lot of programmers struggle sometimes, right? So I think, honestly, they're really, really easy to understand. And we're going to get the basics down correct in this tutorial. So the few that we're going to learn about, there's 3 types that we're going to learn about today. We're going to learn about text types, numeric types, and Boolean types. So I think if you've looked at our past tutorials, the one that's going to be slightly more new is Boolean types. And there will be a complete separate video about Booleans, but for now, I just kind of want to get you introduced to the concept and idea of Booleans as well as other different types of data types. So in our past tutorials, we have learned about variables, and I'm sure many of you guys have known this by now, but let's give our variable a name. Say our variable, let's see here, I love sports. So we can say sports, and then basketball fans. I live in Dallas, so we have to support the Mavericks. And then remember, if you're going to put words, you have to put them in quotation mark. Mavericks. I think that's how you spell it, right? And if you want the correct wording for this, the value of our variable name is a string. More precisely, it's a string of words, and that is why we put it in the quotation marks. But let's say we've learned this too in the first video. Sports, I play 3 sports at school. So if we said 3 sports, the value of this variable is now an integer. So we've changed the different types of variables. And again, back to what we were saying before, in this case, you are changing your data type. So originally when the sports was set to the value of Mavericks, that text type was a string, str, like the one on the very top. Later, when I changed it to 3, symbolizing the number of sports I played, that is now a numeric type. It is an integer. And you may think this isn't very important to really understand, but let me tell you, when your coding gets complex, as in hundreds of lines of code, this is going to be really, really important. Now, what data type is really, really meaning to the browser is it's telling the program, it's saying, what do you intend to do with this value? Are you intending to use it as a string? Is it words? Do you need to show it to the user? Are you intending to use it as an integer? Are you adding them? What are you doing to the numbers? Or are you intending to use it as a Boolean, as true or false? So basically, you're telling the program by selecting the correct data type. You're telling the program what you intend to do with that value. So you're kind of giving it a heads up and saying, hey, take this value as a string, an integer, a Boolean. And I'll give you another example. In our past tutorials, when we were working on our calculator, remember how we took the numbers as integers and floats? We have sports is equal to 3. The one that I really focus on, I only have 1. And then remember when we added them, I'm still referring back to our old tutorial, we can't simply do one variable plus another, because then it automatically takes everything as a string. Instead, we needed to tell the program that this is an integer. So sports and focus, the value of these are integers, and they are not strings. So again, telling the program, giving it a heads up, saying this is what I intend to do. I intend for you to take the values of these 2 integers and add them together. So that is really important. The one key word I want you guys to take away from this video is intention. What do you intend to do with the value? So now, if you wanted to do a quick test to see what type of data type you have, let's say I want to see, is my sports variable, is that a string, or is it an integer, or is it a float? We can say print. This is the print function. We're printing to the console, which is a back-end terminal or window. and then you use the function type. And so this is a little function inside a function. So in the function, in the print function, we're printing to the console. We want it to print the type of the variable, and this is where we choose our variable. So basically what this line of code is saying, please print to the console the type of data type sports is. So if we run this, it should give us integer, because sports is 3, which is an integer. So if we run this, we look at the console, and it says class is equal to int. So class is equal to int, which is an integer. So perfect. We now have these two functions that can tell us exactly what data type we have. So this will not come in handy in very simple programs like 4 lines of code. But when you have lots and lots of lines of code, this is going to be really handy. So say I change focus, because I focus on lacrosse, and then I change this to the word, put it inside the quotation marks, guys. Say I put it, my focus is lacrosse. So then if I print the type of the value, I want to know what data type is the variable focus, and then I print this. I run it, and then it says class is string, str. So this has basically just told me that your data type of the variable focus is a string. And I think this is pretty cool, guys, because then you don't even have to think. You can just put this function in and it automatically tells you. So it's a freebie, right? So now I want to give you guys a quick little teaser to what booleans are. And booleans, at first when I was learning code, I was like, why would anybody need to have a variable that tells them true or false? Like, that seems like something that you just take for granted, right? But booleans in this case, they are used in code so much, and they will become increasingly important as we move on. But the gist of Boolean, what it is it's literally true or false. You can think of it as yes or no, correct or wrong, but it's true or false. So in this case, let's say my variable name is bool. Let's actually do Boolean, just because I want to. And then I'm going to set my value to true. Because remember, Boolean is just true or false. And we will get to what it means later. For now, I just want you to know in your heads that Boolean is true or false. One of those two. So now if I wanted to print the value of Boolean. And now the name kind of gives it away, doesn't it? Let's change the name a little bit. Like lacrosse. So I know this is a really weird name, but basically saying, do you like lacrosse? That's my variable, and I'm saying true. Yes, of course, I love lacrosse. So we can type like lacrosse, and then we run our code. And what data type is it going to give me? It's going to tell me that the class, the data type, is bool, which is saying anything that has the value of true or false is a Boolean. Just remember that. Anything that has a value of true or false is a Boolean. So we can set this to false, too, as well, because the Booleans are true or false, and we run our code, and it still gives us class is Boolean. So in this video, we learned a little bit about data types. We learned a function that you can print to the console to tell you what data type it is. We kind of gave a brief, very brief little teaser into Booleans. And most importantly, we kind of established what data types were and why they were important. And again, I'll emphasize myself. Data types are really important for you to emphasize and know, because it's basically what you are telling the browser. You are telling your program, you're saying, this is what I'm intending to do with the value. Basically, by giving it and specifying a data type, you are telling your program what you are trying to do with that value. So that was data types in this tutorial. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Bye!